Welcome back everybody to Modern with Randy. I am Randy. As always, if you guys are like what I'm doing, like what you're seeing, go ahead and give me a like on the video, subscribe. Let me know what you're seeing in the RCQ world out there. I'm still grinding to get my invite to DC as well. And today I thought I'd talk about a deck that's kind of near and dear to my heart. This is what I took to RC Atlanta last year and did a very middling result with. But I thought I'd talk about the Boros Convoke deck, essentially the deck that when it came onto the field, people thought was going to break Pioneer. It definitely shook everything up on its head and did do a lot of different things to kind of like make people really reevaluate their sideboard. It was very interesting to see when it came out, and then had hype going into RC Atlanta, and then after RC Atlanta kind of has just died out. This deck has pretty much been on the back burner thanks to the Amalia combo. They're just kind of putting this deck into its place and making it realize that it can't really win that matchup most of the time. So I thought I'd go over it and talk about what it's doing, how it's been adapting, and what's going on with the deck. This is a list I stole from a preliminary that won first place in it. So I kind of just gonna go over this deck. It's something that was near and dear to my heart, and kind of go over what made this deck so good and what it's been doing and what it's kind of changed. So as it is right now, it is a Boros deck. It plays 21 lands. You have a couple different value lands. Essentially, we have one Den of the Bugbear, one Ganjo. We have two Cephet Dunes and one Sogazan. So Cephet Dunes kind of activate or act as Imitating Recruiter 5 and 6, for lack of a better way to showcase it. And then, so we're playing 16 1-drops. We have 4 Epicures, we have 4 Novice Inspectors when the new ones that just came out, and 4 Thraben Inspectors, basically just Novice Inspector and Thraben Inspector, the same card. And we also are playing 4 Warden of the Inner Sky. Card's great when you're making a bunch of little tokens, you're making a bunch of little artifacts and stuff with the Inspectors and the Epicures and things like that. Just being able to make this into a creature you have to answer by itself is really nice. It was a big upgrade to the deck that it got. It was very nice to play in the RC Atlanta. It was just a great little card that kind of like soloed people by itself. It just went unanswered. And then to go along with that, we're also playing 4 Resolute Reinforcements and 3 Thalia Garden of Thraben. Basically just kind of a nod that the deck needs some kind of interaction in game 1. It really helps slow your opponent down, just throws them off. This card really only affects our Gleeful Demolition, the only card this gets affected by in the main deck, and usually your game plan is to go Gleeful Demolition on turn 2, Thalia on turn 3. Most of the time, you're not trying to go Thalia turn 2. Obviously, it happens. It's really awkward when it happens, but it happens. And of course, with Gleeful Demolition, being able to make 3 1/1s after we play, one of our 12 artifact producers, we then get to help power out our Convoke creatures in Knight Errant of Eos and Veteran Loxodon. So obviously Veteran Loxodon is the best game plan if you're just trying to kill them quick. Being able to make a ridiculous, 12 power, 16 power on turn 2 is just kind of ridiculous. But that's like your ideal situation. You go turn 1 Thraben Inspector, turn 2 Gleeful Demolition into either another Inspector or an Epicure or Warden, and then you convoke out Veteran Loxodon on turn 2, and you're pretty much just winning that game 90% of the time. It's still a lot of decks in this format that just can't handle that on turn 2, especially if you're the one on the play. You're just kind of crushing them. And then we have Knight Errant of Eos as well, which lets us kind of play the value game as well as let's get more creatures. So if we do it for the full 5, we can get anything in our deck. And then really you just need to convoke it for at least 3, because you want to be hitting your Imitating Recruiter, and then either either one of the Inspectors or Epicure is the other big one to hit. And being able to combo into playing your 1-drop into Imitating Recruiter and then just bashing for a bunch. And then of course Imitating Recruiter has the ability when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1, plus you don't gain haste until end of turn. Notably, this says creatures you control, so this does include the Recruiter. So when you play Recruiter, at the very worst, Recruiter is a 3 mana 2/2 that gets +1 in haste when it enters the battlefield. So it becomes a 3/2 with haste. Obviously, if you're casting Recruiter by itself, it's either because you just survived a board wipe and you're killing them, or this game is vastly over and you're just kind of hoping and pleading that your opponent is going to concede for some reason. But yeah, this whole deck has gone through a bunch of different iterations from when it first came out to where we are now. And the main deck hasn't changed too much in the sense of like Thalia's now kind of become a main deck staple, and of course we've added Novice Inspector, make it more consistent with our 1-drops and things of that nature. Deck is still very solid as a whole, and if you can if you expect to like just go to an RC and no one's gonna be playing Amalia, this isn't a terrible deck to take. It can just flood the board and win. Like there is multiple times where you just get to go turn 2, oops, Veteran locks it on and win the game. Like there's so many decks that can't afford or can't beat that, and it's honestly unreal how powerful this deck is and how how far it's fallen. It's fallen so far when it still has this a turn 2 I win button almost, and it's kind of crazy that that's what's happened and what this has come to in a sense. Especially with Amalia, this has kind of become this omnipresent thing where this deck can't beat Amalia most of the time, and we can kind of see that from the sideboard here. So in the sideboard we have 4 Torch of the Tower, sorry, Torch the Tower, literally just here as a removal spell and as a way to deal with Amalia. We also have 3 Get Lost, which helps deal with any problematic creatures, things like that, as well as it hits enchantment. So the other big problem for this deck was the temporary lockdown. In case anyone doesn't know, if you want to pick up this deck and play it, if your opponent casts temporary lockdown on turn 3 and you're holding up a Get Lost, or it's cast on turn 6 or whatever, and you have Get Lost held up, with the trigger on a stack, you can Get Lost the enchantment, and then you won't lose anything. Nothing will actually get taken away with how the stack resolves, essentially. So temporary lockdown will leave the battlefield before it can actually take them, so you get to keep all your tokens, keep everything that you had out there. Just a little notate for anybody who maybe doesn't know how the interaction works. And then we also have Rest in Peace clearly here for the Arclight Phoenix matchup, as well as Deafening Silence for the Lotus Field matchup. And I'm gonna guess Arclight Phoenix as well. I mean, anything you want to slow your opponent down with is just good, right? Can even be used in the control matchups and things like that. But kind of there for the matchups that you already struggle with. And then we have Redain, God of the Worthy, mostly here for the control matchup. I have to imagine it's here for the Nib to Light matchup too, being able just to kind of slow your opponent down, make him think a little bit. Same thing with the invasion of Gohan. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that one. But just a good way to disrupt your opponent, put them down on the back foot for a second, so you can push through damage and take them down. Great for any of the decks that are playing board wipes and things like that nature, or target removal, things like that. Just kind of a little catch-all. But I kind of, like I said, I was just wanted to go over this deck. It has put up a number or 2 in the past. I do think this deck is still good, and I think that if Amalia ever gets banned in the format, this deck will shoot right back up, and it'll probably catch a lot of people off on surprise because they won't be expecting this deck, because it's just been not a player in the metagame for such a long time. It is a super fun deck to play. Like I said, if you guys aren't expecting Amalia in your RCQ, I recommend at least taking this out, taking it for a test ride. Deck's super cheap to build, super fun to play as well. You just get to do dumb things that you shouldn't be able to do and put so much power into play. You can quite literally kill people just out of nowhere too. It's unreal. Like the greatest feeling ever is just like kind of having a board stall, going into like turn 4, playing your 4th land, is gleeful demolishing a blood token into Imidane's Recruiter, and just getting them with 10 damage out of nowhere. And it's wild. It's a fun deck to play. It's super fun to take out and play. I suggest just taking a look at it if you think this is something you might enjoy. Like I said, the Amalia matchup is your worst matchup, bar none. That matchup has been horrendous for the longest time, but fun deck. I'm kind of happy to see it put up a number here. I don't think this is going to change. I don't think this deck is going to somehow become better in the meta, because Amalia will just rear her Segway head back up and make sure this deck firmly knows it is underneath her boot. But as always, guys, if you like what you're doing, like what you're seeing, give me a like, give me a subscribe, comment what you're playing in the RCQs and what you're seeing in the RCQs. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.